Hi guys, my name is Tim Roswick, and today we're going to talk about sequels. So sequels are things that don't happen often in indie community. You don't see a lot of indie game sequels. You don't see a lot of stuff. But on the flip side, on the AAA side, you see too many. You see way too many damn sequels. We're on our 18 millionth Call of Duty, Metal Gear Survive. Sequels that probably should never be made get made sometimes because money, right? Who doesn't want more money? So I want to talk about today kind of what some of the bigger companies I think do wrong in the sequel space, and what I think is an opportunity for indies to kind of do stuff. So first of all, I think anytime the AAA industry does a game that hits well, I think their first impression is to always make a sequel. Like, game did well, always got to make a number two. And this is not just with games, this is movies too. If you look at the box office right now, if you look at all the popular movies, all the movies that make hundreds of millions of dollars, they're usually not one-off movies. They are franchises. Biggest being obviously like the Marvel universe. Even DC is pretty big though. Not doing as well as Marvel, but you know. And so they build multiple movies in a world that people are already familiar with, and they can capitalize on all of the world building, all of the marketing, everything that had been done about all that stuff in the past, and they can add on to it. And if people already love your world and your characters, giving them another story within that world with those characters, people pay for it. People like that. It's one of the reasons why Netflix is moving more to TV shows versus movies. There's a lot of stuff right now that is moving more towards franchises and worlds and cinematic universes versus individual one-off titles. And there definitely is money to be made, right? Like there like the Halo series, for example. I knew when Bungie went back independent, because Bungie was sold to Microsoft in order to make Halo an Xbox exclusive, and then Bungie wanted their independence back, so they had to buy it from Microsoft. And one of the stipulations in the contract was that Microsoft gets to keep Halo. Microsoft didn't care about Bungie. They're like, no, we don't care about you. But they got to keep Halo. They got to keep the franchise of Halo. And this was right after Halo Reach. And I played all the Halo games. Halo inspired me to start making games. I played Halo, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 3 ODST, Halo Reach. And I enjoyed them different amounts. But when it came to Halo 4... I knew that this new company that Microsoft set up, 343 Industries, was a different company. And I was scared about buying the game. But I love Halo. That's how I hung out with my brother. That's how we spend time together, just playing Halo. Had to buy Halo, right? I had to buy Halo 4. So I bought Halo 4, and it bummed me out, man, because the game wasn't... There was some cool stuff in the game, but the core of the multiplayer just been like Call of Duty sized, if that's a word. And it was just not what I wanted. And I still like the Halo franchise. I've still spent money. I bought Halo Wars 2. I bought the original Halo Wars, not to mention the Spartan Assault games. That franchise has made a lot of money off of me, despite the games sequentially getting, I think, worse. And I actually haven't bought Halo 5, so I can't talk about Halo 5. But it does seem like at least Microsoft, in a way, is trying to correct that franchise. I've heard things have went up since Halo 4, but I haven't tried. So using that as an example, I bought a lot of Halo games just based on the initial goodwill that Halo did for me. So it is financially viable to continually make sequels because people continue to buy them. The problem you run into is that a lot of times bigger companies start to make sequels that appeal to a wider audience. They start trying to go a little bit wider. right? When you go a little bit wider, you lose some of your core. You lose some of your soul in the game. And it just gets more and more spread out. If you look at Call of Duty, I remember the first Call of Duty games, they were really, really interesting. They were about war, the World War II and battle stories and all kinds of stuff like that. And now they're like straight up about the shooter multiplayer. And they have a formula. They stick to that formula. They make one or two tweaks. And they're actually punished for going outside of the formula. They're punished for making things like futuristic wars and all that stuff. People don't want that. People want the core Call of Duty experience. And so they've adapted this model where they push out a Call of Duty every year, and it's a slight iteration on the last one. And every once in a while they remaster an old one that did well, and they just keep sucking money out of the franchise like that. But I think it declines over time. I think we're starting to see this with Call of Duty. The Call of Duty sales are starting to decline. And we definitely saw this with Destiny 2, which was really heartbreaking that Bungie could do this again. Like, first they gave Halo to Microsoft, and now they made Destiny 2, which is just made for, like, people that... I don't know. I don't know what they were trying to do. So, I am a casual gamer, right? I don't spend a lot of time gaming. But the thing that I loved about Destiny 1 was... it had all this progression, all these crazy hard activities like Nightfall and like raids and stuff like that. And there was so much to do, so much to collect, so many things to go, so many places to go, so many things to do, that it intrigued me. And the world was really interesting and everything was really interesting. And in Destiny 2, they kind of said, no, that was too much. You had to go to an extra website to figure stuff out. You had to search stuff. You had to do all this stuff. So they kind of took all that out and they just said, no, you just do these 3 things a week. That's all you do. 3 things a week and then you're good. But while that may have been all that I did in Destiny 1, 3 things a week, right? Just maybe I try whatever. I log on my friends. I do 3 things a week. Removing all of the ability and all the stuff to get and all the activities to do, because based on the data, I only did 3 things a week. They've tried to apply to that bigger audience, right? They tried to keep that bigger core. And by doing that, for me anyway, like, it lost its luster. I'm not interested in it. There's nothing... I don't want to do... I realize that's all I was doing before, but now, like, there's no incentive to do it. So games like that make a lot of... AAA seems to be making a lot of this, and I think Metal Gear Survive is like the latest example, right? Hey, what happens if we took the Metal Gear franchise and put some zombies in it and, charge people for save files? Let's do that. Why not? Some companies are worse than other companies and just trying to milk the franchise. But on the flip side, so let's talk about other stuff. I see a lot of indie games, especially professional indie developers that make, a hit game. They usually don't do sequels. And I think it has something to do with like this artistic integrity. Maybe they're going away from the norm. Maybe they're going away from the mainstream. Maybe they don't want to be the AAA companies. But for some reason, these companies never want to make a sequel, even though a sequel would be really well received. If you look at FTL, that game is amazing. I love that game. That's one of my favorite games. I watch people playing on Twitch. I play it on my iPad. Like, it's a perfect game to just kind of sit down and zone out. It's one of those games you can listen to music to and just kind of do. And I would have loved it FTL too. But the developers came out with a completely different game just recently called Into the Breach. The game's cool, right? I personally don't have any interest in it. The games seem to be received well. I think it launched today. I've been watching it on Twitch. It's okay. But why did they go the completely risky route of inventing a completely new game versus the safe route of creating a sequel to something that people loved? Right? I don't know. And I don't know what the right answer is. I think the artistic integrity thing is really kind of... I think a lot of people view AAA as the enemy, and nobody wants to be that Call of Duty franchise. Nobody wants to be the EA of indie gaming. So I think that probably has a lot to do with it. But at the same time, like coming from the business world and the startup world and like looking at the bottom line and looking what the best financial incentives are, if I ran a company, a game company, wouldn't it be the smarter option to do the safer, more monetarily beneficial game? Maybe. I don't know. Personally, I want your opinion on this. I don't know where you stand on sequels, whether you think sequels should exist. I've actually been asked whether or not Philophobia will have a sequel. And there's actually something in the game. I actually have a story in the game where there is a possibility for a sequel. Based on how much this game is kicking my ass, I don't think I'll ever be able to pull it off. But at the moment, there is a plot point that will allow for a sequel. And I've intentionally kept that in, and I've built that into the lore, and I've kind of added it and all that stuff. So, I don't know. I don't think sequels make you evil, personally. I can see how they could be, but it seems to be overutilized in AAA and underutilized in the indie scene. And I feel like maybe there might be a middle ground, if that makes sense. I would love to know your thoughts, though, because this is one of those things where I really don't know how I feel about it. And I would love your opinions on what you think of sequels, whether they make sense, you know, from an indie perspective, why you love them, why you hate them, any of that. Leave those in the comments down below. Once again, my name is Tim Ruswick, and I'll see you again tomorrow.